Well, hello there and welcome everyone to the Advisor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jacomen, and gosh, we are super excited and honored to have an absolutely amazing guest on our show today. And we have Brian Page, who's with Modern Husbands, winning ideas to manage money and the home as a team. I'm thrilled to have him on. We've actually never had anybody this cool on our show before, so we're actually really excited. So Chad, welcome to my co-host, Chad Ramberg, everybody.
Yeah.
Big round of applause. So how you doing, Chad?
I am doing great. I got a haircut this week. I hit the gym this morning, and we get to talk to Brian. So, how could the day get better?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, listen, Brian has an amazing story, and I love how he's gotten into this world that we're talking about today. I think there's just going to be enormous value for everyone. So, guys, buckle up and strap in. I think you're in for a real treat and a real ride. So, Chad, with that, take it away.
Absolutely. So, Brian, this is the funniest thing. I don't know if you knew this, but my wife was listening to a podcast, and she was, I don't know, doing her hair or something in the bathroom, and I'm in the kitchen doing dishes, and I can hear this playing in the background, and there's this guy on there talking about fiduciary standard and good financial advice and all of this. And I'm thinking, my wife never listens to anything like this. What is she listening to? And it was a great podcast, but it was a podcast for her. And I was like, I got to find out about Brian. Reach out to you. You said, sure, I'll chat with you guys. So thank you. It was really cool. I would love to hear Modern Husbands, just in a short snippet. What are you guys up to?
First, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. We just look at the data and know that the majority of households are dual income households, and that in 45% of households, women earn the same, if not significantly more than men. And so for the modern home, it's really teamwork that makes the dream work, right? And it's about putting systems in place at home to be efficient, because we're all super busy. We have lots of responsibilities, and those systems need to be evidence-based. It shouldn't be a world of a guessing game or just following the next content creator who just kind of throws out some nonsense ideas. We believe that it's important to share with folks the ideas that we know work to manage money together and to manage the home together.
See, this is why it's fast friends with Brian, Rob, because, systems thinking, analytical, making sure we're not just pulling stuff out of the air, and really working as a team. What we try and do as a business, Brian's kind of helping bring that home so we can do that at home with our partners,
right?
And just be better overall. So, and one of the reasons I actually wanted to have you on is because I thought, our audience is mostly financial advisors. I thought this would be a great thing for them to think about, because everybody's working on growing their client base, and you're right, statistically speaking, women are going to college and they're making good money over time from it, and the world's changing.
Yeah, I think when you look at the data, you'll open your eyes and raise your eyebrows when you recognize that women are outpacing men as college graduates at every single level, associates through PhDs. And which is great. I mean, to me, frankly, gender is irrelevant. It's just a matter of, like, if I'm building a team, let's say I'm building a championship football team, I'm going to look at the natural skill sets of the people that I have on my team and figure out how to make them work together. And when it comes to the business of a home, it's the same thing, right? I mean, you have the stuff that causes you to love one another and stay romantically involved with one another and be like really great caregivers, but we still have to roll up our sleeves together and do the hard work. And let's find ways to do it like really efficiently and do it in a way where people are arguing less, if arguing at all, about money and chores.
Totally agree. I actually have a question for you, Brian, and really, what I find really interesting and amazing about your story is usually people come up with a business idea as a way to serve a very specific target market, or call it a niche if you're talking business or whatever. Usually people start a business because of something about themselves to solve a specific problem that maybe they had that would inspire them to, hey, you know what? We could actually turn this into something and be able to teach others what we've learned. Is that kind of the genesis of your business, or tell us a little bit about the story of your beginnings, your humble beginnings?
Well, as far as the business, I came from a personal finance background. So I was a visiting scholar at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Office of Financial Education. I was a past personal finance and economics teacher, and was a National Teacher of the Year. And then I lobbied for personal finance to be required in high schools across the country. And my wife and I have 3 kids. She's an executive in the financial industry. And we moved from Ohio to Atlanta to support her career. And, you know, at that time, we didn't necessarily have, you know, kind of like, we didn't have a money scarcity issue, but we did have a time scarcity issue. And we needed to find a way to provide more support for our kids at home, one in particular. And so I became the flexible one. I had historically been the breadwinner. I grew up in a small, growing up believing that that's just what you do, and realized very quickly that there's more to being a husband and a father than that. And when we made the change, I just literally Googled how to be a great husband. And it opened my eyes to, you know, a different side of marriage. And my mind always goes to money first, because that's the origin of my professional career. And frankly, that's the origin of, you know, who I am and how I was raised in my hometown and by my parents. But I learned quickly there's much more to it than that. And I uncovered that the business of running a home really should be structured in a way where you can collaborate efficiently. You can divide the labor in a way where people are doing what they enjoy. But most importantly, you can do it in a way where, unfortunately, women are not burdened with doing most of the work, particularly the mental load, meaning like that checklist in their mind to make sure things operate. And the problem that a lot of women face is that if they're executives, if they're doctors, if they have big jobs, you know, it's challenging for them to tackle those big jobs and then to come home and have another big job because their partner doesn't shoulder a fair amount of what they need to do to run the home. And so I became obsessed with understanding how to do that, because ultimately the intertanglement between money and housework, those string together. And if you can understand how to put systems in place to run your home like a machine, like a business, you argue less, if at all, about money. Your wife is happier. You have happier marriages. I mean, the research is really clear about all of these things, whether it's money related or household chore related. So that was the genesis of Modern Husbands.
It's awesome.
I know. I mean, I got to confess, my wife has literally brought up to me before, there's the mental load part of it. I need you to help with that. And it's one of these things, as, you know, in the past, it's not how we were raised. You know, there was Mr. Mom, which you kind of lived, and then you went in there and said, hey, how can I help make it better? It sounds like for what you were doing, but then you've just taken that, maybe it's your experience as a teacher, to the next level and say, how can I help others do this better?
You know what's awesome though? I just thought about this, Chad.
Yeah.
What Brian was just talking about is exactly what we just had a phenomenal guest, Bridget Grimes. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she's
wonderful.
Yeah. She's a superstar.
You know her. Okay. Yeah.
I know her. Yeah.
It's such a small world, right? And we had her on our show last week to record an episode. And some of the things, there's a lot of congruence. There's a lot of similarities in what you were saying, Brian, and what she was talking about, in how the balance in the household between, professional women and making it in their careers and having that balance in a healthy relationship where everyone's doing their job, everyone's doing their part to contribute. It's like a professional sports team. You got to run it like it's a business, a professional sports team, and everyone has a very specific role, and you just do things together as a team. And she talked about that, and I thought it was awesome. Like, great insights.
In conversations with her and others on the financial side, one of the challenges that she might have brought up that is commonly brought up is what happens when she's the breadwinner. Mm-hmm. And, in today's world, because of societal norms, what we saw growing up, the expectations that perhaps we have had all throughout our life, there's a misunderstanding about what makes women happy. And when you look at the research, what women crave most is to be emotionally and supported. That's the number one thing that women look for. And when women are career driven, that money is far less important than the support that they get at home, whether it's the mental load, whether it's the support because they have stressful careers. And, I have a full-time job. Most modern husbands have full-time jobs too, and they have big jobs too. But, the challenge is that when she earns a lot more, men sometimes have husband guilt, meaning because they're told that your job is to bring home all the bacon, if you're not, you feel less than. And it's important that men understand that we are a lot more than a paycheck, and that what makes for a great parent and what makes for a great husband includes much more, and that we need to concentrate on looking at our roles more holistically, looking at the humanity of being a husband and a father, knowing that, sure, bringing income into the home is valuable, but when your wife earns a heck of a lot of money, what is more valuable to them is to feel supported and to feel like that when they get home, that they don't have to run that business too.
Gosh, how did we get so lucky, Chad? We have the most amazing people that are sharing. It just blows me away, Brian, because it's such a great perspective. And I think it's actually comforting in a way to hear what you're having to say, because there are, I think there's a lot of things. I grew up in a generation where that's exactly the way it was. Everyone, the men played a role, and you're supposed to be the breadwinner and take care of the family. And, mom was supposed to take care, of the kids in the house and everything else. And that's just not realistic in today's day and age. And it's very difficult when you have that mindset as a man to try to figure out where because I think as a man, you're kind of like, I have a place and a role in this in this tribe here. Right. And like, I want to make sure that I'm doing my part, because there is that feeling in the back of your mind, like, well, am I doing this? And I feel a little less than, or do I have some guilt? Or, you really want to understand your role and be okay with that. And that's a really tough thing for men to do.
Yeah.
One of the things that's cool about your website, Brian, is that you are bringing in, I can see the teacher running through it, but it's because you've got some fun stuff. You've got videos, you've got a lot of different pieces of it. And so for me, I prefer the videos. I'm not going to read it as much, but anyway, what, I'm curious, like your tribe or your group, the community that you're building around Modern Husband, what does that look like? And kind of who's the, look, I think this is good for all of us husbands to listen to and think about how can we be a better team member in our family, right? But for you, what does that look like? Who would be best come check you guys out?
I think that anybody who wants to be a better partner would want to go to modernhusbands.com. And there are people that, every day that I look at, or something they're sharing or read something, and just to try to have a daily check-in with how I can grow. And the goal for my website is to help partners grow and it's obviously targeted toward men in the modern world. And obviously on the website, you're going to have, kind of like the fundamentals of personal finance, things on like credit scoring. And like I earned a perfect credit score. I had a FICO 850. So a story about how I did that, like kind of the utilitarian, the technical side of it. But a lot of it really is more about the emotions of managing money and the relational aspect, because really that's what drives a lot of arguments and stress in marriages. And that's something that I think is difficult for financial planners to tackle in the limited time that they have with their clients, because so much of it is focused on their journey toward financial freedom. Whereas during that journey, there are a lot of bumps in the road. And what I share is comes from sound research. I mean, you saw my advisory board. I have a lot of folks who are financial therapists, psychologists, financial psychologists, and recognizing that there are different ways to tackle financial problems together that go far beyond, like a textbook or, kind of like the standard, let's set a budget and live by the budget kind of thing. Marriage isn't a workbook, right? It's messy. And we've got to find strategies to have tough conversations about how we can move forward together with shared goals and put systems in place to reach them.
Are you telling me there's not a perfect playbook for
I wish that'd be.
Darn it. I thought there would be. Gosh.
Yeah. Well, I think the work you're doing, Brian, is if somebody's going to find it, you're going to find it, but I don't think you'll find it.
I think if you go to social media, though, you'll find about 4 billion influencers that claim that they have it for only $9.95.
Well, I guess what I'm hearing you say is that we all kind of have to build and create our own playbooks.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Create our own journey based on our unique situation and how we can show up and be the best. Like Chad's a big fan. Like he talks a lot about Kaizen, talks about, daily improvement and being your best self and showing up and being your best self. And I think that's kind of that's what I'm hearing you say, Brian, is kind of like, we all have our own unique journey, and it's just like creating that blueprint and that roadmap and that playbook for ourselves so that we can achieve that financial freedom, and knowing that there's going to be bumps along the way. How do when those bumps do come up, how do you deal with them? How do you deal with them in the most effective way? So you're communicating, you're supporting each other emotionally in a way that there's mutual respect and understanding. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think we also need to recognize that a path that partners would take in like the 1950s was typically on the same road. But in 2025, you're going to make lots of detours. You're going to have lots of detours. Mm-hmm. You're going to make a left, you're going to make a right, because our economy changes so much, because the cost of childcare is so high. So you're constantly changing your roles. I mean, I wasn't always, I used to work almost 80 hours a week for 10, 15 years. I had a bleeding ulcer before I was 40. Mm-hmm. I didn't do the laundry. I didn't cook. But that was then. This is now. And maybe I go back to that in 10 years. I don't know. I don't want to. I feel like I've won the lottery. It's a lot more fun being the guy who has a business built around being flexible for your family. I can tell you that right now. But I just feel like that when you have access to high quality information, you can understand how to build your new playbook when life takes a turn.
Yeah. With advisors, so it's interesting. With financial advisors specifically, I'm thinking they're in a unique position where, doesn't matter the gender. Either way, what they're trying to do is build their own business, but they also most advisors out there have that heart to help their clients do better.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering, Brian, so I'm just, I'm trying to look for the end here where the financial advisors, what can they do to help be better, not only in their own family, but really to help their clients think about these things, or what's the door that they can unlock to help their clients be better?
Well, I think the first thing is to recognize that most people are facing time scarcity. And whether it's the couples themselves or the time that financial planners have to meet with couples. Mm-hmm. And I created a product recognizing that financial planners, they want to do more. They want to be great for their clients. But it's really hard to do all the things they want to do in the limited amount of time that they have, particularly when their clients are really busy. So I took a couple of years to build out a toolkit that addressed the topics that lead to the most frustration, anger, potentially divorce, relative to managing money, relative to managing the home and supporting each other in their career and family planning. And I interviewed the nation's leading experts. I have almost 50 that focus on those specific topics. How do you structure bank accounts, as an example? That's a common question that I see from newlyweds or people who are married a second time. Maybe they're facing financial turmoil in their marriage. So in the toolkit, I have 3 different answers. And the toolkit's this digital library. Think of it as digital medicine. And people can just find the topic that they're struggling with, watch the 5 to 20 minute interview, have conversation prompts that you can use in that topic to go about working together to solve the problem, with some light text and graphics to make sure you understand it. And so let's use blending bank accounts as an example. Dr. Jenny Olson from Indiana University was the first one alongside, she led the research, and then Dr. Scott Rick from Michigan and Eli Finkel from Northwestern helped her. But she was the first one to find that in first-time marriages and for engaged couples, that putting all of your money together will actually cause happiness. And all the research before that showed correlation, meaning really the researchers, they couldn't prove that having all of your money together caused more happiness. This research showed overwhelmingly that relative to people who did not blend all of their money, that it caused more happiness. But you also have to recognize that everyone is different. Most of our money stories originate from our childhoods, and there could be financial trauma in our past that is driving certain decisions that make it unfeasible to put all of your money together. So a second topic would have been, okay, if you're in that circumstance, let's say you're a tightwad, and I am on that scale. I'll be open. Like, a tightwad isn't someone who's just frugal, who enjoys saving. A tightwad is someone who actually gets physical pain is created when they spend. Now, I'm not that way all the time. I'm going to go to the Ohio State Notre Dame game on Monday, and I'm going to spend some money on that. But I love that. But if I walk into a shopping mall, I get a migraine headache, right? Mm-hmm. So some people are married who are tightwads, are married to spendthrifts, meaning they can't put their foot on the brakes when it comes to spending. What happens when those two are together? And we know from research that financial opposites oftentimes marry, but when it's that extreme, what do you do? So he talks about the yours, mine, and ours strategy, but the order of which that is done is really, really important. What the research found was that when you have paychecks directly deposited into one joint account, bills are paid from that account, the money's psychologically money laundered. So you don't have this kind of thing of like, oh, I make 60%, so I'll contribute 60%. You make 40%, I'll contribute 40%. That you start putting numbers, you start quantifying things like that. Where do you stop? Does that mean that there's a number to the amount of household chores you do? Like, I've never seen any research that says that's anything but damaging. But anyway, the money goes into an account that's for both of you. It's psychologically money laundered. You pay bills from it. And then it branches out from there into your own little individual accounts where you have financial translucency, meaning If your partner wants to see the account because maybe they fear financial infidelity or actual infidelity, they can. But it's best not to look, because your spending partner is probably going to have a bunch of stuff on there that's going to drive you nuts, and vice versa for the spending person looking at the frugal partner. Okay, so that doesn't answer the question. There's a third strategy to consider. What if you're divorced? There are a lot of people in this country who are in second marriages and bringing kids into the second marriages. So Michael Van Cleve is getting the first PhD in the country on managing money in a blended family. He's also on my board, and he contributed to the toolkit and discussed what strategy works best. And it's not just from research, it's also he's in a blended family, which is the origin of his passion for this. But what he found was that in second marriages, particularly when they're kids, it's really complicated. Managing money is really complicated. And so you want to simplify money management as much as you can. So the strategy he recommends is to have an account that's for your old life. Alimony, child payments, that's one account. You have an account with your new partner that's for your new life. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple that way. So I share that as just one example of what I provide to financial planners. So I sell the toolkit to planners in big bundles, and then they just give it to their clients. And the clients can decide what makes the most sense for them to look into, or the financial planners perhaps recognize in a meeting, I don't have time to talk about how to conduct a money date. But I can tell you, if you go to the toolkit, Dr. Megan McCoy can do this. I don't have time to talk about financial infidelity and how it can be not just something that hurts the person who was financially cheated on. It could be a result of a restrictive partner who feels like the only way that they can spend is if they do it in secret. So Dr. Michael Thomas talks about that. Mm-hmm. So it empowers financial planners to have a competitive edge to support their clients in meaningful ways that they just don't have time to support them with in their annual meetings.
Gosh,
so someone can essentially find Modern Husbands. Well, anybody can find it online, right? But they can find it directly, or a financial planner, if this is something they're really passionate about and they're like, hey, I really want to help them work together better, they can bring this to their clients in a package. And there's different ways it can be used. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah.
As an educator, what I do know from just pure education from that research is that just an online resource is far less effective unless it's accompanied by a professional. And so
interesting.
When you have, let's say you're just talking about school, when you have going back to the pandemic days where people started learning virtually, the words synchronous and asynchronous learning became kind of common terms. And so if you have an educator that is providing instruction and guidance that's working hand in hand with online resources, it's effective. Mm-hmm. But if those two things are working in complete isolation, it's a lot less effective, which is why I strongly prefer working with financial planners to sell them big bundles, because I know then it's going to be used the right way.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, just to rephrase that, make sure I'm hearing you right, is what I'm hearing is basically if the financial advisor is sitting in the meeting with their clients and say, hey, we have access to this resource, here's how folks have found it helpful, and you might find it helpful because we're kind of talking about it here. Maybe we've only got 10 or 15 minutes, but here's a little bit, and they can go home and dig into it deeper, just give them the access to it or whatever that looks like, right?
You got it. Yeah.
That's really cool. That is really, really neat.
Thank you.
I think that's actually, can I put my business hat on for a second? Because
sure.
I think this is actually really cool. If I'm a financial advisor and that's my target niche, I'm partnering with Brian and saying, like, I want access to your stuff that I can offer as a value add to building that relationship with my clients or prospects. Because if you're a financial advisor and you're sitting down with a prospect, you're like, hey, this is why we're different. Not only are we going to meet together and we're going to talk through this journey and what it looks like, but I know we're not going to be able to spend all of the time that we really need to get, roll up our sleeves and really dive into this stuff. We actually have this other resource. We have this financial toolkit that we make available to our clients that is really valuable, and it's going to help you two as a couple come together and really work together as a team. And to me, Brian, that's kind of where my business hat went on. I'm like, man, if I'm an advisor right now, I'm like buying into your stuff, because I could really add a lot of value to that relationship.
Listeners, I promise I didn't pay him to say that.
Yeah, no, it's just fun. I mean, I got
entrepreneurial brain. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's the hope, right? I just feel like, first of all, I need to confess, there was no business plan when I did this. It was like, okay, how can I help people? And I just took the same approach that I took when I taught, of like, how can I figure out a way to address the problem in a way where the people facing the problem are most likely to use it and embrace it, right? So like, we know people are time scarce. Who's got time for a course? Like, that's not going to work. Financial planners can't meet with somebody. I guess they can meet monthly, but for most people, that's not financially feasible, right? Mm-hmm. So this is designed to fill that hole.
And there's some fun stuff on there. I just have to shout out J.R. Havlin, I think, is on here. I just love the 10. I don't know how many there are, but
that's my website. That's my website.
On your web, the pickup lines on your website.
Yeah. Okay. So
JR
wrote. So the toolkit is a closed product that you have to purchase, but on my website, modernhusbands.com. JR is a friend of mine, and he won 8 Emmys writing for The Daily Show for Jon Stewart. Yeah. And he wrote a bunch of one-liners. I think it was entitled like, one-liners to get your wife to laugh, kind of PG-13 rated one-liners. Yeah. And I do. It's not just money and housework. It's like lifestyle too. And that's important. Like, I have a time and money, time experts, happiness experts. I had Dr. Ashley Williams on from Harvard, who wrote Time Smart. I had Dr. Cassie Holmes on, who wrote Smarter Time. And she teaches happiness at UCLA, and that podcast is coming out too. So we look at like, okay, what are the things that like make couples and men happier, right? And so it's like, how can we be embraced in the moment, at the time, living in that moment? Like, that's what brings happiness. So I share like a lot of ideas, like that one.
It's awesome.
It's so great. It is. This is fun. I think we could have a lot of podcasts or spend a lot more time on this, but one of the things that I am grateful for having you on is because this is what we want to give back to the community, help. It doesn't mean that maybe a package isn't right for the financial advisor at the time, but if they have a minute, check out your website. They're probably going to get a few ideas that are just a lot of fun. And it's our little way of when I was a financial advisor, is this really, really hard work. I know that we're all have families, right? We know it's hard work. Thank you for packaging this together for us to help make it a little bit more fun. And I'm just excited that I get to do a little bit of help in getting the message out.
No, it really means a lot. Like you said, if you want to learn more, go to modernhusbands.com. We have a free newsletter we send every 2 weeks, and we have a podcast. And of course, you can email me about the toolkit. My email's Brian, spelled correctly, Brian, Brian at modernhusbands.com. Again, that's Brian at modernhusbands.com. Feel free to reach out. Love to chat.
It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, one thing I should give you a moment, Rob. You got any burning questions in there?
No, all I keep thinking is that I would love to have Brian on again at some point, and just like, I always love tracking people's journey and the impact that they're making on the world. And because I think at the end of the day, and I know Chad's going to ask you the next question, and I always think about this stuff that we do is all about mission and purpose. Yeah. And what were we called? Like, I have a whiteboard. You guys can't see it, but it's like, what would you do for the glory of God if you knew you could not fail? What is your mission and purpose in life, and the impact that God has called you to make on the world? And that's just my view. That's my view. That's not a world view. That's just my personal view. and the way I look at the way I do business. And Brian, the way I'm looking at the things that you're doing to positively impact families could literally change the trajectory of a family and the legacy that they are creating for their children, for their children's children. And I think the way I looked at it is your product and the things that you're doing, your podcast, your newsletter, it's like dropping a pebble in the water, and it's like that ripple effect that it has that potential of making a positive impact in people's lives. And that's what I love the most. If I was just to kind of share transparently, that's what I love the most about having you on and you sharing what you shared. So anyway, thank you.
Well, your compliment is my mission, and it put chills up my back, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Chad, take it away. What's the last?
Well, the last question is when you're sitting on your porch with your partner and you're enjoying an evening and you're like, wow, this is a life well lived. What does it look like? We've talked a lot about modern husbands, so maybe pick something else out in your life that this is really good. This is finishing well. What does that look like for you?
I want to sit back on my rocking chair with my wife and have nothing but memories of joy and happiness together, have as few regrets as possible about missed opportunities with one another, and know that there are millions of people that I was able to help build the health and wealth of their marriage through what we're trying to do at Modern Husbands.
Well, see, now I got chills because I think maybe we're just a little bit a part of that. And at the Advisor's Edge, maybe a few more people out there get the message. So cool.
It means very much that you'd have me on, and all of your kind words. Thank you.
There it is. Brian, you said it all. We are so honored and grateful to have you on. I think it was meant to be. And we just love having guests like you on. This is Brian Page, guys, Modern Husbands. Check him out. We'll put all the links to everything in the show notes, in the description. So if you guys want to reach out to Brian, by all means, reach out, tell him we sent you. And we're just honored to have you on, Brian. And we can't wait to, again, maybe in the future, have you on again and share even more of your wisdom and knowledge and, just sharing the good word. So we appreciate you.
Thanks again. God bless.
God bless, guys. All right. We'll see you again on the next episode of the Advisor's Edge podcast. Thanks, guys. Take care and have an awesome and blessed day. Take care.